What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. It goes without saying that whether you are in your professional or personal life, relationships and the quality of them can either add or subtract to the overall quality of your life. So I won't make a case for why relationships are important. That would be redundant. What I will quickly say so we can clarify what the discussion today is in regards to relationship and something that you would think would come naturally to us. But given the statistics on loneliness, dare I say there is room for improvement on how we can actually maximize the connection that any relationship, each relationship offers us, and how to fill our life with deep, rich connections, even with passerbyers, so that we can feel satiated and don't put undue pressure on seeking that from the very few people who we let into our trusted circles. This is an episode that hopes to deliver you more of those real connections to enrich your life. It will only take some participation from you to consider the following 5 things in your next interaction. Starting with, and this seems obvious, care. But not to start with this on a conversation like this about how to have genuine connections, the 5 ways to create genuine connection. To start a conversation and a topic like this without mentioning care first should make you question the intentions of anyone talking about such a topic. Because done mechanically, trying to make genuine connection, done as a tactic to build connection, takes the most important operative word out of the goal we're talking about today. Genuine. How to build genuine connections. And as obvious as it may be, it all starts with care. And you cannot fake this. If you came here because you wanted to make more friends or deliver more results for your business or clients, just know that you will have to go a little deeper inside of yourself and find a string that you yourself find some unique connection to that allows you to care about what it is that you are looking to accomplish here by building this genuine connection. What are you looking to accomplish? You will be required to go deep inside of yourself to find something that you can connect to that actually allows you to care about why you want to build this genuine connection. And if that's not why you're here, I'm sorry to tell you that you came to the wrong place, because you cannot do this mechanically. I don't know how to build relationships and connections with others mechanically. I have never tried to. And as much as I lean towards a love for things and solving problems on Excel sheets, what kept me in my corporate career for 14 years was human connection. It was connection with my clients, many of who have shaped the man I am today, and who I have the blessing of calling lifetime connections. And connections with my brothers and family who started out as coworkers. I don't have regular relationships with people. I don't know how. I care too deeply. I have the pick me up at 3 a.m. from an airport 2 hours away from your house kind of relationships. I'm rich because of them. And the amount of care I have for people in my life cannot be understated as the foundation for genuine connection. This care is the part that makes it genuine. So, other than just the universal recognition that anyone talking or considering to improve connections in life should do it from a place of care, I can say that as a universal thing that we should follow. I had to bring it up for my own personal reasons too, because I have seen it play out and I can confirm it from my own perspective that it is indeed my deepest care that allows me the most genuinest of connections. Yes, genuinest. If you're new here, I make up words as I go. Just keep up. So, what is it about care that makes it so important? I mean, let me ask you. Let's just flip this around for a second. What is it that you want from connection? At the core of it all, if you chase down your desire to connection, don't you ultimately want to come across someone who grows to care about you? Isn't that all we all want? A little TLC to balance our oxytocin and make life worth it all. Real friends to call in hardship and joy. Real love to make anywhere home. That is what we all want. So then, can you see how you cannot, in the act of pursuing connection, do it without leading with offering that care first yourself? Because in the empathizing of what we may all want when listening to this, the care in the genuine connections, can you see how it is not to be found and encountered out there until it is offered from within? And what you offer from within is then what it is that you find out there. You want to be cared for. You want to be cared about. And so does everyone you meet, from the person shining your shoes to the CEO of your company. And the problem is that we all live surrounded by our own color of the beach ball, meaning all we can see around us is the color that we are surrounded by. And we can't relate to the red portion when we're surrounded by the yellow. We don't know how to offer care or empathy until we see eye to eye or share perspectives. But because we live so far apart in our understanding of the world, we don't even know how to offer our care to someone outside that understanding. We think we must see and be surrounded by the color of the beach ball that they live in to be fully immersed in the red that they see around themselves. Only then can we truly empathize and may come to care about someone outside of our understanding, because we first did the work to see the world through their eyes and actually was no longer outside our understanding. We grew to understand their understanding and see things through their eyes and their colored glasses. And sure, that is definitely the long and arduous path to appreciating one another and caring for one another, and to see a day in life of someone else is to be humbled by the reality that that person encounters. And that does bring worlds that are apart together. But I will argue that this long and arduous path doesn't have to be the only one traveled. And that we can care for those we don't agree with or can see eye to eye with. And I say that because at the core of it all, we are all human. And the care we need is so fundamental that it doesn't need to be personalized or attuned to, for example, the CEO's level. Or a warehouse employee couldn't accomplish it because, he can't see his perspective. But true care, that again, we're talking about how to get to genuine connection and how it starts with care and how you can care for the CEO even, and how you can connect from any level to anybody. And true care does transcend all the differences and the mind projected colors we see the world in. Because it gets down to the core of the most human parts of us, to what matters, to what truly matters. And what truly matters has truly mattered for eons and will matter for many more. And it is that which can be connected to despite all, that which can be cared about. No matter where you are in your life or accomplishment, we all have a similar inner world battle. We can all care and connect on this front. We all have fears, doubts, insecurities, hopes, dreams, aspirations, disappointments, accomplishments. These transcend any career disposition. We can care about any of these. Again, we are seeking care for all of these from others. And if I'm lying, if you disagree with me, if you don't think this is what you think we will go around seeking in our connections, feel free to reach out to me. I love debating this stuff. I'm on Instagram at XECKZ. So we start with care as a foundational step to building genuine connections, because that's what adds the genuine in it, right? The next step that I found personally for me after care that I relate to solving for the long and arduous path, and that is overshare. This is something that I do that at first even I question myself, because you don't want to talk too much about yourself and dominate the conversation and all that. That's like a big no-no in social structure, right? Don't be the guy that keeps talking about himself. But the problem with that bland advice taken off face value, the advice that you shouldn't talk too much about yourself, or that people should be left wondering what it is that you do or who you are because you're so interested in them. And as much as I would love every conversation to skip right past all this talking I have to do about myself, to be where I meet people like me, and I have the opportunity to listen to an oversharer. I love when people openly share about their life and are not restricted in connection. However, where I see, again, this advice fail, this bland advice that we shouldn't overtalk, and where my style of oversharing proves more fruitful in a faster way to speed up that long and arduous path that comes from learning the perspective from that person's color of the beach ball, from that long path, the faster way that I find more fruitful, my style of oversharing, is what leads to more instant connection. And that's to lead with your own vulnerable story. And this old advice of just not talking about yourself doesn't work, because as much as I would like to encounter numerous people who are open books and ready to spew all types of things about themselves to lead the conversation so we can get deeper and deeper into connection, the reality is that there is more and more of the opposite. And more people nowadays are reserved than ever before. The level of conversation that's required is usually not led by the other party. And you can't just go ahead and ask a bunch of personal questions either. You have to shape all your questions like a funnel, more generalized to more specific. It takes too damn long, but again, that's the usual gradual way to escalate and getting to know somebody. The long and arduous path. seeing things their way, finding out slowly, getting people comfortable, asking more general questions, and then slowly letting them warm up to you. Because more people are reserved nowadays than anything else. And that's what we encounter, hesitant people. Still pensive, so they're not leading the conversation. Unless a scenario or chemistry permits. And they're probably not answerable to a bunch of deep questions. So, yes, again, as much as I would like to meet a bunch of people that are not this reserved, it's ironic that in the most social capable generation, in the most globalized generation, we are more and more hesitant to connect with people. We have our guards up, almost like we need to filter people and have to have them pass a certain criteria for them to be worthy of connection. As if we lose something. Like connection is a zero-sum game that we only have so much of to dole out into the world. And the problem is, more often than not, the people we encounter are in this reserved state with their guards up and don't tend to lead the conversation. Most people internally are desperate for connection, but externally do not have the facilities from which to form those connections, or have been hurt in the past and are still bringing that up in their new connections and living from the memory of those. So when meeting new people, most people tippy-toe into the waters, slowly getting to know them and sharing more and more intimate things if the person passes this supposed filter. And what I like to do is to speed all this up. And that's by oversharing all those things that everyone else is so hesitant to share. Like struggles or insecurities or aspirations or whatever. And I can do this because I'm truly not seeking anything from the person. I'm not looking to be liked as much as I would love that vulnerability reciprocated or them to like me. It would be enough for me to have left them with an example of someone who is not inhibited. And hope that that example serves something of value for them in the future, even if not in the direct interaction with me. So even if in that interaction I don't get back that energy and they remain reserved, I still don't shut down or start mirroring them and become what they are familiar with in seeing in the world. Just another person who falters at the sign of first defense, who also becomes reserved. But more often than that, even if not in the initial interaction, when I do this, not only do I not shut down, and even if I encounter a reserved person at first, more often than not, this turns into a deep connection with a person who starts to share more things and more things about themselves. It's almost like I can fast forward to the best parts and the parts I care about the most when I see that person. I can skip right to those, the parts that make them most human, that make them most beautiful. Not all the surface personality mask that they rehearse all day and perform all day, and that's what naturally leads. I get to get past all of that stuff to deep connection, and it enriches my life. And the risk is my own vulnerability, not being reciprocated or being judged. Fair trade to me, if you ask. It's a risk worth taking. And although I play this out in my life and learn this intuitively, after thinking about this and writing about this to brainstorm this episode, I was referred by the universe to a similar teaching by Carl Rogers. He would say, that which is most personal is most general. The more authentic you become, the more genuine in your expression, particularly regarding personal experiences and even self-doubt. The more people can relate to your expression, and the safer it makes them feel to express themselves. That expression, in turn, feeds back on the other person's spirit. And genuine creative empathy takes place, producing new insights and learnings and a sense of excitement and adventure that keeps the process going. Overshare. And I will say that you can be an oversharer. The point isn't to dominate the conversation with your oversharing. Once you have gotten the other person more comfortable and familiar with you, the point of oversharing is just so get through the common friction and gridlocks most human relationships get stuck at and never progress past. Some for a very long time. And what I'm sharing, what that works for me, at a high possible cost to me that I deem worthy, is not just a way to ease through that gridlock in your long-term relationships, but a quick and fast way to get there with people you have known for a short amount of time and maybe only get to see very little. Maybe you don't get to spend a lot of time with them. And it's still very possible to form deep bonds, not just with long-term relationships where you apply this, but deep bonds and connections with people and have a firm imprint on each other's hearts. From the deep parts you both get to explore together openly, that you can speed to quickly. These deep, meaningful, influential connections defy the quality we experience in most of our relationships today. And we definitely don't know how to go about adding to these connections the older we get. We don't know how to go about adding more and more rich connections and genuine connections. We don't know where to meet people under the right circumstances where the opportunity lends itself to connection. And though it might be true we do less group and collective things outside of work when we become older, which does limit the chance of this, what I'm saying is that this fast method that might at first make you seem like a crazy person who talks too much about himself can still maximize any opportunity we have in any chance encounters with any humans. Any chance encounters. Because you can speed to, with this fast method, speed to the best parts of them. And you can maximize the opportunity in those chance encounters. And you'd be surprised how many people are dying to meet someone like you. Someone willing to bare their soul. Someone who lets them know they can bear theirs. Your vulnerability is a service to humanity. It gives silent permission where we don't even realize people need. It's like everyone's just holding their breath, walking around, talking to everyone, and waiting to finally get to meet and be with someone they can breathe around. Be that breath. Deep. Moving on from care to overshare, which is along the way to accelerate and escalate the path for the person to present you more and more things for you to ultimately care about in them. From care to overshare, which hopefully then starts to get them to speak so you can discover things that you can care about in them. And now your main job becomes step number 3, to listen. So we care, step number 1. We overshare, step number 2, which greases everything and hopefully gets us to find more things we can care about. And now our job, step number 3, is to just listen. And we've talked about the value of listening on several episodes in the past, so I'm not going to labor this one, or I'm at least going to labor it less than the other points. But I will reiterate some things. And I'll ask you a question. Do you listen? And does it actually advance and enhance your dialogue? Or is it two people with individual monologues going back and forth? One thing that sticks out to me more than anything is how keenly someone listens. I notice that quality more than anything. And usually this keen listening has obvious signs and evidence because it should shift the next words that come out of the person who is listening. It should actually shape the words that are coming out. And the people who are really keen at this, even when they're responding fast, they're listening so keenly, their next words, they can almost stop themselves and respond to what it is that you just said. That's how keen they listen. And usually the more the person has an invested interest in listening, the more weight they are putting into processing of what that they are taking in, and that actually shapes what their next follow-up statement is going to be because of how much weight they are putting into the processing of what they are taking in, because of how much they care, how much they're invested. And the least attuned of these, we've probably seen many examples of in politicians and bickering idiots, which are just essentially monologues, soliloquies that are maybe not even meant to be heard by anyone other than the person speaking them. Most people speak to hear themselves talk, and conversations with them, although could be entertaining if that's your flavor, are like throwing darts back and forth without ever hitting a mark. They don't really accomplish anything in the form of bringing two people closer together. It's just banter. It's what most of us practice. Let me just express what I think and how I see things, and I will keep the awkward silences at a minimal, but it doesn't bring anyone closer together to each other. It's just a pastime. It's what people call small talk, which I think should be illegal. I mean, do I really care about or really get to know you at all when you tell me your passionate theories about meaningless topics like pop culture and sports and celebrities and movies and whatever the hell else? I walk around with a sign on my forehead that says I do not watch movies or shows. This eliminates me from most meaningless conversations. And which at first, in the beginning, when I started living like this, I wasn't sure if it was a good thing because, you know, you want to be part of the group, you want to be able to play a part in the conversation. But now I know what it does do is that once people know and know that they can't take part in those type of discussions with me, and they're done in the group filling up their buckets with meaningless chatter about those topics with the other people in the group, and then they turn to me, and I'm still in the room with them, I automatically get the part of them that others don't lend an ear to with different topics. And I win because those are the parts I care about the most. And they win because they actually have someone to express them to. And I end up being the one in the room with the closest of the bonds with these people because even amidst the noise of all the nonsense, I get to be blessed with the whispers of their heart that happen very rarely because the conversations are dominated by nonsense, by banter, by things that don't bring people together in deep connection. So my point is that listen with an eager but earnest heart. And if you listen from this level, you will find the eagerness and the earnestness in so many of the hearts around you who are begging
for connection, waiting to turn their head and have someone to have a real conversation with. And of course, we've talked about active listening in the past, meaning to retain and keep what you've listened to and give the relationship continuity and restate or pick back up from where you've left off. So in a sense, the person and you start to build a mini life together. It's almost like you have a mini story together that you can continue and add to. It's literally like the building of something. We're talking about building deep connections. It's how two energies, two beings synergize together to create something entirely new, a new story, a new world. You synergize a world that you create together in that connection. It is the highest form of creation, where both of us suspend and subordinate our guards to the highest order and higher order vibration of this true, genuine union happens in the dance of real connection. So we care, we overshare, and then we listen. And then when we're listening, step number 4 would be to silence your preferences. As you listen, you will naturally come up with thoughts sparked from what you are taking in that trigger an assessment of sorts. You start to assign value to everything based off of the way you've lived your life so far. So in a sense, as the person starts to say things, your life and its experience and exposure will allot a weighted value to the words coming out of the other person. And this is a huge detriment to real connection. Your own preferences and biases and likes act as a filter to let in or disqualify that doesn't please you or what you do like. And if you were building a company with a grand mission and needed clear qualities to build a vision, I'd definitely advise this level of scrutiny, because you're creating something that should carefully align with the values that you hold. And for that, you need specific people on board. And it should be the expanded expression of you, and you want the correct people with the right values that you do scrutinize that with. But often, people make the same mistake when it comes to dealing with human beings outside of building a company. It's almost like we mistake people to be the same. We think that people should come in flavors we might like and flavors we likely won't. You don't have to agree to understand. So if what you're after is real connection, not people who you're handing responsibility to build out your vision, just real connection. And I'm not saying you're trying to add every connection or the person to your tribe that will be the 5 people who you spend the most time with and thus determine the value of you. Again, connection can be had with everyone in passing. And your life is much richer for it. You don't have to forego those connections. They are available to you, and you are desperate for them. People are lonely because they don't think that they have access to these readily, but they are all around us. And your life is much richer in the depth you experience inside of yourself and awaken in others in this pursuit of real connection. So again, if what you are after is real connection, your preferences play no role here. Who are you to assign a value, or worse, forget the assigning of value? What makes you think your life experience is even adequate enough and your preferences clear enough to determine what to set your own filter by? that lets people in or not. I mean, it's almost like the life experience you could let in might at some point become more adequate and expansive, but it's being stopped prematurely by the setting of those preferences that could let in those life experiences. So your current life experience is holding back the life experiences you could have because you're using that as the way to set the criteria of what gets let in. And again, I'm not asking you to question everything, but you do have opportunities and depth and things that you can find in every person that you encounter. And in those connections, there's something of richness that it can add to your life. And do I advise this for everyone? Probably not. Some people cannot just be around all types of energy without being influenced or affected by it. Maybe you should focus your attention and your goal should be to have genuine connection with specific people. But you can use this to have genuine connection with anybody you encounter. And that's what I would prescribe, because the world, we are surrounded by humans that are here to offer us a richer life. But you can, if you want, focus this on just a few people. Because not all of us can be around all types of energy without being influenced or affected by it. So if you don't have a firmness in your spine that silences your desperate seeking from each one of those connections and reaching, then I probably wouldn't suggest this. Because yes, opening yourself up to people, to truly seeking to understand and listen to them, leaves you open and vulnerable for sure. And unless you have a firm foundational value system and you yourself have time tested that and have a clear vision for your life, you can definitely have your energy be thrown off by the energy of other people that you let in. But again, if what you are after is real connection and deep connection, and you can expand the sources of that to every human being that's walking around. And I have been around all walks of life who, for all intents and purposes, are on an entire different wavelength than me. Ones that, again, those energies that I can be vulnerable to, these other wavelengths that they're on, that I can be vulnerable to. And some of these people who even have the tallest of walls from the fears and hurts that are guarding them have been the closest of friends of mine. And more importantly, I have been the closest and fewest of their friends. Because I'm after the connection. I'm not in it for the imposition of my idea of life onto them. They can choose to live however they want. I don't have to agree to understand, to connect. I still know that they are an expression of God's image that still have something to offer me. And I don't shun that offering or resist getting to it by unnecessary, maybe premature preferences that I don't even know I really have, and ones I might not have tomorrow. Life is so fluid and passing by that, again, every passing person is an opportunity for deep connection. And if you haven't gotten it yet, that deep connection with them is the way to deeper and deeper connection with yourself. So care, overshare, listen, silence your preferences. And if I was to round off these 5 points to genuine connection with one last one, these points that start with care, sharing and offering first, then holding space for the sharing you may have encouraged by listening, to while you listen, to have that listening be most impactful for you. and the other person by not imposing upon it your own idea of what it should be, your preferences. But I would be remiss if I didn't bring home these points with one that, in a way, bookends the scope of this entire discussion, from care to a token, a souvenir of care that hopefully lasts past the interaction or connection, no matter how long or short. And to be clear, what I mean by that token of care, that souvenir, is to, in your own unique way, leave the other person with something that commemorates, celebrates your crossing of paths. Many times this happens naturally if you follow the natural steps of connecting, as you two almost intertwine and create something together in this beautiful synergistic fashion. This should happen naturally, where you both leave each other a token of your care. Both of you bring out a part of you that both of you benefit from experiencing. At a difficult time in my life, at one time many years ago, probably felt that difficulty by one of the guys that worked in this store that I was visiting that day. This gentleman, who was a friend of the store owner, but was very humble and helped them with all different types of things, like sweeping the floor around the entrance and all types of things. And that day, he either sensed my distress or was sent by God. And in that short interaction, he held my hand and prayed with me. Unsolicited, unnoticed by any, on a dimly lit block in the Bronx. And that is what he had to offer me in his own unique way that I can forever celebrate the connection of. He never saw me again. And in the same way, and it doesn't have to be a dramatic story like this, but in the same way, God shaped you in some unique way that is your greatest vehicle to leave something of value behind for someone. And if that's in the unique way you notice or appreciate the effort they put into something, or the unique and warm way you hug, or maybe the sense of peace in your energy that can be felt in your presence, or the inspirational can-do anything zeal you may have that rubs off on people, again, you are a walking, talking gift to humanity. Please don't unwrap it just for those few select people who get to meet your rigid criteria. Please be the beacon of light that you are, uninhibited and always on, for everyone that you meet, not just the lucky ones. You are all of this. You are all this for someone. You are all this for someone all the time. You can be this for everyone. I love you, family. I do this for true, genuine connection. I want to connect with each of you who listen. I notice I have regular listeners from certain cities and places, and I'm going to start calling them out on future episodes to let you know that I see you and that I feel you and that I appreciate you, and that I want to appreciate you more if you would let me. I would love to connect on Instagram, and I got to get better at how to bring people into a community that we can all benefit from each other's connection. But at least selfishly, if you would connect with me on Instagram at XECKZ and message me, I would love to talk. I received this beautiful message from someone who took the time to tell me how he appreciated one of my first episodes. And yes, selfishly, I want a lot more of those messages. But even if that's not your speed and you disagree or you just want to debate, I would love to connect. I'm here for the connection. I love you always. See you in the next show.